When it comes to the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch owners, I feel like one game that everyone is looking forward to is, of course, Metroid Prime 4. Now, Metroid Prime 4 was first talked about at E3 2017 for the Nintendo Switch. It was confirmed to be coming to the system, and then we got absolute radio silence on the game. And a lot of people were wondering, what is up with Metroid Prime 4? There hasn't been much information about it. I was expecting to see some Metroid Prime 4 at E3 2018, but of course, Smash Brothers was the big focal point of that event, and we didn't see anything about Metroid Prime 4. So maybe some people got a bit worried. Maybe the game wasn't far enough in development to show it off. Whatever the case was, there's a lot of mystery surrounding Metroid Prime 4. Well, in a recent interview with Reggie of Nintendo, let's go ahead and run the Reggie picture. Reggie actually had to talk about Metroid Prime 4. He had some interesting things to say, and the more I thought about what he said, the more I thought about the puzzle pieces involved with Metroid Prime 4, the more I thought to myself, Metroid Prime 4 needs to be at the Game Awards 2018. So what did Reggie say about Metroid Prime 4, and why do I feel like it needs to be at the Game Awards 2018, and why that's a very important thing for Nintendo? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you check out the pinned comment in the comment section down below to have a chance to win and to enter to win a $100 eShop gift card giveaway. God, I'll be happy when I don't have to say that anymore. And let's talk about Metroid Prime 4 and why it needs to be at the Game Awards.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So looking at the Metroid series, it's always been an iconic series for Nintendo. Talking about the original Metroid on the NES, it was a game unlike anything else that we had really seen at the time. Then we got Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, once again another phenomenal game. We got Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, once again another phenomenal game. But once Metroid Prime came along, the series definitely took a shift in a different direction, because all of those games were 2D games. With the Metroid Prime, they actually shifted it to a first-person perspective, and they really sort of changed up what Metroid was all about, and people really gravitated towards the Metroid Prime series because it was just an awesome series. We of course got Metroid Prime 1 and 2 on the GameCube, and then we got Metroid Prime 3 Corruption on the Wii. All fantastic games, but once that happened, it kind of got quiet again. We didn't hear much about Metroid Prime. We got some offshoot games, Other M, which a lot of people don't like. I like it. You got Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS, which was actually one of the most robust online games for the DS and is a really underrated game in my opinion. And then you got stuff like Metroid Federation Forces, whatever it was called. I don't remember the name of that game. I like to block it out of my memory because I did not like that game. Of course, Nintendo actually did sort of revisit Metroid with Metroid Samus Returns, which was a remake of Metroid 2. So Metroid is still a popular franchise, but when you look at the console side of things, you haven't had anything since Metroid Prime 3 on the Wii. Now, obviously some of that plays into the fact that the Wii U was just an absolute failure. But Metroid Prime 4, once it was unveiled at E3 2017, people got excited. People wanted to know more about it, myself included. I think most Nintendo Switch owners wanted to know more about it. Well, in a recent interview with Reggie, we actually got some information about the game, because so far we've all just had speculation. There's of course the rumor going around that Bandai Namco is working on the game with Nintendo, which was found on Linked ID, but other than that, it's been radio silence. So Reggie had the following to say about Metroid Prime 4. Internally, we have expectations about when Metroid Prime 4 is going to be released. We haven't announced it yet, but yeah, the game is well in development. Typically 6 months to a year out is what we like to do when announcing games, but there are times for strategic reasons that we believe it's important to get a message that the game is coming. We did that years and years ago with Zelda. We were messaging a new Zelda experience back during the days of the Wii U. It really depends on the game, it depends on the type of development that it's going through, and it depends on how we feel the consumer is going to respond to this particular message. Now obviously the second portion of that is a bit of fluff, but I do believe it ties in to Metroid Prime 4's announcement, because you see that Reggie clearly states they like to announce things 6 months to a year out. Well, if that was the case, we would already have Metroid Prime 4, as Metroid Prime 4 was of course unveiled at E3 2017 via a small teaser trailer. So I think they're trying to do something similar to what they did with The Legend of Zelda, and I'll explore that in a minute. But basically, the most important thing here is that internally we have expectations about when Metroid Prime 4 is going going to be released. We haven't announced it yet, but yes, the game is well in development. So that's a very promising thing when it comes to Metroid Prime 4. Now, harking back to the Zelda comparison, I think this is a perfect comparison because in my opinion, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was so different than everything we had seen in the Zelda universe up until that point. Playing the game and looking at the game, it's not a traditional Zelda game, so it made sense for them to announce that game early and showcase that game early because they wanted to get the point out there that, hey, this isn't a traditional Zelda game. And I feel like that's what Metroid Prime series is, because a lot of people still assimilate Metroid games to that classic 2D style game. And of course, it did come out on the GameCube and the Wii, but having been disappeared for over a decade now, a lot of people probably have sort of forgotten about Metroid Prime. So I think it's very important that they did hype it up at E3 2017. Now, of course, we have to talk about the whole Game Awards aspect of it and why I feel it's so important for Nintendo to showcase Metroid Prime 4 at the Game Awards. This is definitely part of a bigger puzzle, but I was able to piece some things together that actually make sense. So I want to run this by you guys and see what your train of thought is on this situation. So looking at the Game Awards themselves, now me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Game Awards. We all know that, but I do feel like it has a place in gaming. I just maybe don't like the execution of it sometimes. But Nintendo definitely takes the Game Awards very, very seriously. Obviously, Reggie has been there, Miyamoto has been there, so it's not something that they just look over and like, oh, it's just an award show, blah, 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 whatever. They take it very seriously, almost as serious as something like E3 or Nintendo Direct or something like that. So Nintendo definitely wants to have a strong presence at the Game Awards 2018. Looking back at the Game Awards 2017, there was a lot of crazy Nintendo Switch related stuff at that event that I feel like a lot of people may have just forgotten was first unveiled there. You of course had The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild DLC 2-pack, which showcased the motorcycle that you could ride around the fields of Hyrule in, and everyone was like, what the hell is this? This is absolutely crazy. You had Bayonetta 1 and 2 be confirmed for the Nintendo Switch as well. So looking at the Game Awards as a show itself, Metroid Prime 4 is a perfect candidate for that show because you don't have just simply Nintendo fans watching the Game Awards 2018. The Game Awards is all about gaming in general, not just Nintendo fans. So you have PlayStation owners, Xbox owners, PC gamers watching this event. And Metroid Prime is a series that Nintendo takes very seriously, obviously. That's why we haven't seen it in quite a while. And I feel like Metroid Prime has the ability to sort of hit with gamers on the PS4 and hit with gamers on the Xbox One and sort of transcend what is able to be done on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, Reggie was spotted wearing a Metroid shirt with Jeff Keighley posing for a picture, and of course Jeff Keighley is the one who puts on the Game Awards, so that really got people speculating. But I think that there's a little bit of evidence that shows that Metroid Prime 4 will be at this event. But one of the things I want to focus on is Reggie's own words himself. He said that typically they like to announce a game and reveal it 6 months to a year out from when it's going to be released. Well, what happens in a year from now? Would be holiday 2019. And I think a lot of people are expecting Metroid Prime 4 to be a holiday 2019 game. So what better place to unveil it than at the Game Awards? Like, Metroid Prime is a game that is very heavily focused on graphics and things like that. You play Metroid Prime 1, 2, or 3 on your GameCube or your Wii, or even your Wii U as they did the HD collection on there, and you look at this game and it's definitely not a typical Nintendo game. Nintendo games all usually look great, but they're definitely based more on art style than pure raw horsepower, whereas the Metroid Prime series is about, you know, creating this world and sucking you into this world, and is definitely a very visually pleasing experience. It's definitely a game that they focus a lot of graphical attention and detail on. That's what makes Metroid Prime so special, and I think a lot of people are wanting to see what Nintendo is able to do when using a more realistic art style with the Nintendo Switch. Of course, we've seen Doom and Wolfenstein come to the Nintendo Switch. You've seen games like NBA 2K series on the Switch as well, and after the patches of Doom and Wolfenstein, those games look even better than they did when they first came out. The NBA 2K series already looks fantastic, so a realistic, you know, more realistic setting and style is definitely something that can be done on the Nintendo Switch, but we haven't seen Nintendo do it themselves. I just think that this is the perfect time and place to showcase the game for one more final reason. Nintendo's representation at the Game Awards 2018 is very, very small. Look at the Game of the Year nominees and things like that. How many of those games are available on the Nintendo system? 1. Celeste. an indie game. And there's nothing wrong with indie games, but obviously all of the games that are on there are either third-party games available on the PS4, the Xbox One, or the heavy hitters from the PS4. So Nintendo's not going to be going up there getting a lot of awards and things like that. The spotlight's not going to be heavily on them. It's obviously going to be on things like Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man, God of War, these huge AAA titles that did not come to the Nintendo Switch. And what better way to say, hey, you guys remember the Switch? There's a really kick-ass game coming to the system than showing off Metroid Prime 4. Don't do a CG-only trailer. Show some gameplay. Show the graphical engine. Obviously, the game is far enough in development for you to somewhat talk about it. And I feel like the Game Awards 2018 is the perfect place to talk about it. But let me know in the comments section down below what you feel about this. Do you expect to see Metroid Prime 4 at the Game Awards 2018? Because I sure as hell do. And honestly, maybe I'll be a bit disappointed if it doesn't show up, because it's the perfect time and place for it in my opinion. And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Like I said at the start of the video, make sure you check out the pinned comment in the comment section down below to have a chance to win a $100 eShop gift card during a giveaway that I'm doing with CastlemaniaGames.com. And as always, I will check you guys out in the next video. Later.